Hello everyone. This video is about points of intersection. As the name refers, a point of intersection of a graph of two equations is the point that satisfies both equations. So we will be solving equations simultaneously. Graphically, it's the point where two graphs are crossing. For example, this is my line. This is my equation for the first one, for the first function. This is the equation for the second. Their graphs are intersecting at this point. So this point is called point of intersection. So the way of finding point of intersection is we equalize the equations, given equations together, and solve the equation for x, and substituting x into one of the equations, we will find y. So x comma y will be the point of intersection. Let's take a look at some examples. First example, exercise 21 in the book. F of x is 2 minus x, g of x is 2x minus 1. Find points of intersection of these two graphs. So the first thing we need to do, equalizing functions together. It's very simple. F equals g. F of x is 2 minus x. G of x is 2x minus 1. We solve for x. So this is equation. We bring x's on one side, numbers on the other side. Let's bring negative x to the right. So it makes 3x, and negative 1 to the left. It makes 3. 3 equals 3x. Divide both sides by 3. X becomes 1. So I got 1. I need a point. Point means x comma y. So to find y, I will be substituting 1 into either of the equations. Pick an equation. Both of them will satisfy. It doesn't matter which one you pick. Let me use the first one. So y equals 2 minus x, which is 1. That gives me 1. So I used f of x. You can use g of x when you substitute 1 for g, x for g. 2 times 1, 2 minus 1, 1, the same result. So I got my x, I got my y. The point is 1 comma 1. Here is their graph. The graph of f of x is this, 2 minus x. The graph of g of x is that. So this is the point where two graphs are intersecting. So 1 comma 1 will be the point of intersection. Let's move on. Example 2. Um, x squared minus 3 is f of x. X minus 1 is g of x. Now I see a quadratic function here. My graph will be like this, one of the graphs. The other one will be like this. This is a line, a linear equation. It will be a straight line. This is a quadratic equation, something like this. So it seems like we have two points of intersection, and let's find what these points are. So first thing we need to do is equalizing the functions. F of x equals g of x. F of x is x squared minus 3. G of x is x minus 1. Remember how to solve quadratic equations. Bring everything on one side of the equation, 0 on the other side. So x squared, x to the left, minus x, negative 1 to the left, negative 3 plus 1 makes negative 2. I have a quadratic equation, so the way of solving quadratic equations is factorization. So x, here I have 2, 1. The sign here is negative. The sign of the middle term is also negative. So let's use negative for the bigger number. Negative 2 times 1, negative 2. Negative 2 plus 1 is negative 1. So that's the correct factorization. So I will write this as x minus 2 times x plus 1 equals 0. Now I have two possibilities, x being 0 or x being 2 or x plus 1 being 0, which is x is equal to negative 1. So I have two x values, which means I will have two y values. How do I find the y values? By plugging in these two for one of the equations, for x in one of the equations. So which one is easier to substitute? G of x seems easier. So let me use g of x to find y. So y equals 2 for x, 2 minus 1, which is 1. And for x equals negative 1, y will be x, which is negative 1, minus 1, which gives me minus 2. So we have 2 points, which are, here I have 2 for x, 1 for y, and here I have negative 1 for x and negative 2 for y. So I have 2 points of intersections. These are the points. Let's move on. Example 3, 2023 first attempt ministry exam question. We have absolute value equation. So we have a situation here. We have to check our answer for x whenever we have a radical function, a rational function, or absolute value function. We should check the result for x. Like this question. In this question, we will find x value and check the result at the end. So as always, we equalize functions together. F of x equals g of x. F of x is negative, absolute value 2x plus 3 plus 6, and g of x is 6 minus x. I have an absolute value here. I need to get absolute value alone. So let's move 6 to the right. Negative absolute value 2x plus 3 equals 6 minus 6 becomes 0. So just negative x. Get rid of negative by dividing or multiplying both sides by negative 1. So absolute value 2x plus 3 remains on the left. X remains on the right. You know how to solve absolute value equations. Remember, if there is absolute value equals something, then inside will be either that something or opposite of that something. It's either a or negative a. So here I have 2x plus 3. The inside of absolute value is either x or it is negative x, because negative x, negative of this number will come out as positive. So we have two possibilities. So solve for x. Bring x to the left first. X equals 3 to the right, negative 3. So I got one answer, x equals negative 3. Do the same for the other one. Bring negative x to the left. It makes 3x. 3 to the right, negative 3. Divide by 3, x is negative 1. So I have two possibilities. In the options, I have negative 1, negative 3, both, or none. So which one is true? So I need to check. I have a lot of possibilities. So let's check our answer. Since the function is absolute value, we need to check. How do we check? We substitute negative 3 into this equation, f equals g. So negative 2 times negative 3 plus 3 plus 6. This is for f, the left hand side. Is it equal to the right hand side, g of x part? 6 minus 3. 6 minus 3 is 9. Here I have 2 times negative 3, negative 6 plus 3, negative 3. It comes out as 3. I have negative in front. It's negative 3 plus 6, 3. 3 is not equal to 9. So that doesn't check. This is not our answer. Negative 3 is false. Let's check negative 1. Do the same. Let's see if left hand side is same as right hand side when you plug in negative 1 in the equation. So negative 2 times negative 1 plus 3 plus 6. Is it equal to g of x 6 minus 1? On the right, I have 7. Is it equal to, on the left, 2 times negative 1, negative 2 plus 3, 1. Negative 1 plus 6, 5. 5 is not equal to 7. It's not my answer either. So it seems none of them works after checking. So we simply say there is no value. So this is one of the ways of solving the question. It's a test question, so we can use the opportunity of having a test question. Just try options is another way. So second way, you always have a second way, which is trying options. How do you try options? Let's plug in -1. Let's write this equation, f equals g, plug in -1 and see if it satisfies this equation. Plug in -3 and see if it satisfies this equation. If they satisfy both, C would be the answer. If one of them satisfied, A or B would be the answer. None of them satisfies, so D is the answer. So without solving this in a long way, we can simply try options 2. All right, let's continue with check it out 5. This question requires some simplification and factorization methods. So equalize f to g. F of x is x cubed minus x, and g of x is 1 over 4 x squared minus 1. So let's bring 1 over 4 x squared minus 1 to the left. X cubed minus x minus 1 over 4 x squared minus 1 equals 0. So we are looking for common factors. So do we have common factor here, x cubed minus x, in this part? And do I have a common factor here? I don't have a common factor here, but I can do the simplification, factorization here. But in this part, I can take out the common factor, which is x. x squared minus 1 minus 1 over 4. Here I have x squared minus 1. So it seems I have the same factor. So x squared minus 1 is same as here. So why don't I take this common out as I did here? There is subtraction between them. I have a common factor, so I can take it out. So take x squared minus 1 out. So what is left? X is left for the first one, minus 1 over 4 is left for the second one, which is equal to 0. See, this complicated expression becomes very simple expression. So we can use zero product property. So it's x squared minus 1 is equal to 0. So x squared is 1. Taking square root of both sides, x is negative and positive 1. And x minus 1 over 4 can be 0. In this case, x could be 1 over 4. So there are 3 possibilities. I have 3 x values. So I have 3 corresponding y values. Which one is easier to substitute? I don't want to deal with fractions. I want to use f. So let me check. Let me try finding y by using f of x function. So y equals, let's try 1 first. 1 cubed minus 1, which is 0. And let's try -1. Y equals -1 cubed minus 1. -1 cubed is -1. Negative negative makes positive 1. -1 plus 1 is 0. So I have the same y values here. So for x equals 1 over 4, the corresponding y will be 1 over 4 cubed minus 1 over 4. You can use your calculator to find a decimal here or equalize denominators and find the fraction. So the points will be 1 comma 0, -1 comma 0, 1 over 4 comma this result. So if you know how to do this simplification factorization, you can solve the question easily. Example, another example, 2023 second attempt ministry exam question. Oh, and it's in the book, study guide 11. So what happens if you don't have two different functions like f of x, g of x? There are two different equations, x and y, written together. So in this case, we will try to write this as two different functions. So what does f of x means? F of x or g of x means y. So I will isolate y to find the function for each. For the first equation, isolate y. 3x, let's bring 3x to the other side. -4y equals 8 minus 3x, and divide both sides by negative 4. Y will be uh, 8 minus 3x over negative 4. I can simplify this more, or I can leave it like this. Do the same for the second one. So isolate y. Y is on the left. Bring x to the right. So 5 minus x. So I have two y's, two different functions. This is like f of x. This is like g of x. Okay, I can equalize them. This is like f of x, and this is like g of x, and I should be equalizing them. So this equals this. So on the left, I have 8 minus 3x over negative 4. On the right, 5 minus x. I will solve for x. So let's do cross product. 8 minus 3x equals negative 4 by 5, negative 20. Negative 4 by negative x, positive 4x. Or you can basically say multiply both sides by negative 4, the same idea. Let me move negative 3x to the right, negative 20 to the left. So 28 equals 7x. Dividing both sides by 7, x becomes 4. My x is 4. So I don't have to find y value because it seems in options there is only one option with x equals 4, which is option D. So I don't need to find y value. I don't need to waste my time. So this is the way of solving these kind of questions. Another way would be trying options. Let's put 3 for x, 2 for y, and see if it is true for both. Let's use b, the point in b in both of the equations, and see if it satisfies both. Try every option one by one and see if point if any point satisfies both of the equation. So this is always another way. Okay, let's keep going. For f of x equals ax squared plus bx plus c, there's a note written here. We are going to be talking about discriminant. If b squared minus 4ac, the discriminant, is positive, then there are two different solutions. If discriminant is 0, there is only one solution. If discriminant is negative, then there is no real solution. So keep this in mind when you solve questions. So here I have a similar type as the previous one. This is also study guide 12. I have two different equations, which means I have two different functions. Write the functions by isolating y, getting y by itself. Bring x squared to the right, so 7 plus x squared. Here let me bring y to the right, so y equals x plus 1. So there are two different equations, so let's equalize them. So on the left, 7 minus x squared. On the right, x plus 1. I have a quadratic equation, which means I need to bring everything to one side of equation. X squared, bring x to the left, it becomes negative x. 1 to the left, it becomes 7 minus 1, which is 6. So can I factorize this? Let's try. X and x, 6 and 1. The sign is positive here. I should use negative for both because the middle term is negative. Negative 6 plus negative 1, the sum should give us the middle term, coefficient of the middle term. The product should give us the constant. The product gives me the constant, but the sum doesn't give me the middle term. So this is not true. Let me use another combination, like 3 and 2. Negative 3 and negative 2. The product gives me 6, but the sum doesn't give me negative 1. So this is not the correct combination either. So I'm out of options. This is either 6 times 1 or 3 times 2. None of them works. So it means factorization doesn't work here. So if factorization doesn't work, we studied quadratic formula before. So we can find discriminant first and see if we have a real root. If we do, we could use quadratic formula to find them. If we don't, so we simply will say there is no solution. So let's find discriminants. B squared minus 4ac. So what is a, what is b, what is c? The coefficient of x squared is a, coefficient of x is b, coefficient, the constant is c, right? So b is negative 1 squared minus 4 by a is 1, and c is 6. So let's see if delta is positive, 0, or negative. 1 squared is 1 minus 4 by 20, 4 by 6, 24. 1 minus 24, negative 23. So it seems our discriminant is negative. So what happens if our discriminant is negative? As the note, as it's written in the note, there is no real solution. So when discriminant is less than 0, there is no real solution. For this question, it means there is no point of intersection. So that's the way it is. Another different question. Find the points of intersection of the graph of f of x with x-axis. So it only gives us one function. I don't have the other one. It says this function is intersecting with x-axis. It means find the points on the x-axis where that graph crosses. So find the points where the graph intersects the x-axis. It means find x-intercept. So when you understand the question, solving the question is very simple. So find the x-intercept. So what do we do to find x-intercept? We set y to be 0. So 0 equals x squared minus 1 over x squared plus 1. Cross product, x squared minus 1 is 0. So x squared is 1. By taking square root of both sides, x is plus and minus negative 1. So I got the points. X is 1. When I try this in the denominator, it doesn't make it 0. 1 squared plus 1 is 2. It's not 0. Try negative 1 in the denominator. Negative 1 squared plus 1 also not 0. So they both checks. When I check, they both check. So I can use both. So what are the points? The points are negative 1 comma 0 and 1 comma 0. So here are two different points that the graph is passing on the x-axis. Finally, now I have two more questions. Here I have a graph question. Find the value of x where f equals g. So this is a graph question. There is no solving, just identifying the points. So do you see any common point between f and g? Is there any point where f and g are crossing each other, intersecting, touching each other? No. So no common point, no touching, no intersecting point. So there is no point of intersection. And one last question, 2022 first attempt mystery question. It says find the value of a. There's a missing number here. When f of x is equal to g of x at x equals 2. It already gives us the point, the x value, where two graphs are intersecting. We just need to find the unknown. So we know the way. Equalize functions. F of x equals g of x. What is my f of x? 4x plus a. What is my g of x? A x cubed plus 2x minus 1. What do I know? I know that x is equal to 2. So all I have to do is plug in 2 for x and solve the equation. This is pretty simple. 4 times 2, 8. 8 plus a equals 2 cubed is also 8. 8a plus 2 times 2 is 4 minus 1. Let's simplify this a little bit. 4 minus 1 is 3. Bring 3 to the left. 8 minus 3 makes 5. And bring a to the right. It is 7a. Divide both sides by 7. A becomes 5 over 7. So there is no none in the options. 5 over 7 is already there in option D.